What is the imposter syndrome and do I have it? That's the number one question I get all the time. Hi, everybody. I'm Constance Howard, executive coach on a mission to help women gain unstoppable confidence. Too often, we're plagued by questions like, am I enough and can I do this job? All part of the imposter syndrome. Women come to me when they are sick and tired of feeling like imposters in their lives, and they want the kind of confidence that will empower them to go for those big positions that they know they can handle, but they've shied away from. They want the kind of confidence that will empower them to command a room when they walk into it. And they want the kind of confidence that will empower them to demand the respect that they deserve. You know, I built a 40-year career in TV news and I was very successful. But I got to tell you, there were times when I'd look around and I'd think, am I enough? Can I really do this job? I'd look at my colleagues and think they were smarter, more talented, more you fill in the blank, because I always counted myself as coming up short. I don't know if any of you felt like that, but that's how I felt. And I always felt like I didn't belong in the position that I held. Now, you may feel like that and not know why. So, I've created a series of episodes on the imposter syndrome. And this one, I'm going to tell you how to identify whether or not you may be suffering with the imposter syndrome. And I'm going to prove to you that you're not alone. Episode 2, I'm going to show you how the imposter syndrome will manifest itself in your life and the huge toll, the physical, mental, and emotional toll it's taking out on you. And in the final episode, I'm going to talk about a simple exercise that you can do anytime your confidence is challenged, anytime when you start to feel like you don't belong here, which you know is a lie. So that's all coming up. Now, before I get started with this episode, I want you to do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when any new videos are posted. Ready? Let's go. When I first heard the term imposter syndrome, I thought, what is that? Is that a medical condition? Is that a psychological disorder? What is it? And I got to say that when I talk to people and I start talking about the imposter syndrome without explaining what it is, they have the same question. Is it medical? Is it a psychological disorder? I'm getting my papers in order. Um, it is not a medical condition and it's not a psychological disorder. The term imposter syndrome was coined in the late 1970s, really 1978, by two female psychologists. Before I give you the formal definition, I'm going to ask you a series of questions because that's the best way for you to identify what the imposter syndrome is. Okay, here we go. Question 1. Do you ever feel as though you're not enough? You're not smart enough. You're not talented enough. And that everybody around you somehow is smarter, somehow better, somehow more able to do the job. Have you ever felt like that? And even though you are highly qualified, and even though you've experienced a great deal of success in your career, and even though people speak of you in very glowing and complimentary terms, right? You're well respected among people. Inside, inside, you don't feel as though you are enough. Have you ever experienced that? I had a client who very accomplished, very successful client. She was going from one Fortune 500 company to another. She had been highly recruited by this company, and she knew she was qualified. She beat out a whole lot of candidates, right? And she got the job. But the second she got the job, the second she agreed to take the job, she started with self-doubt. Can I do the job? Am I enough? Now remember what I said. She was going from one Fortune 500 company to another. And she kept thinking, am I enough? Can I do this job? I think they may be smarter than me, more talented than me. And none of that was true. She was having a moment. See, that's one of the characteristics of the imposter syndrome. You simply think you don't measure up and that everybody else around you is somehow more, you fill in the blank, more talented, smarter, more able to network and maneuver a situation. You ignore the fact that you have been successful. You ignore the fact that you have awards possibly and that you've been, cited as the expert. You ignore all that. You concentrate on, wow, I'm not enough and they're more. They're better than me. Do you feel that way? Have you felt that way? Okay, question 2. The success that you have and all of your accomplishments, do you attribute that to luck? Let me say that again because I stumbled. Do you attribute your success and your accomplishments to luck, being lucky, being in the right place at the right time, having the right team? Is it all because of some external force around you? Do you ever accept the fact that your accomplishments and your success is because you're smart, because you're talented, because you work hard, because you've dedicated and committed yourself to doing something and doing it well? See, a lot of people don't think that way. A lot of women don't think that way. I had a client who was just, every time I saw her on social media platforms, and I read articles that she had published, she was just being cited as the expert. And, she looked like she was living her best life. She was just at the top of her game. And I was so proud of her. And when we talked, I mentioned it to her. I said, wow, you're doing so wonderful. And she said, that's not me. That's the imposter syndrome. I, I feel like I'm just lucky, like I was in the right place at the right time, that they needed me at the time. And so that's why I was able to succeed. And of course, she may have been in the right place at the right time, right? She may have had a great mentor. But the fact of the matter is, she worked hard. She worked hard. She was consistent. She showed up 100%. She really deserved the success that she had achieved. She deserved all the things, all the rewards that were coming to her. But inside, she couldn't accept that. She could not accept that. Do you feel that way sometimes? Do you feel as though, no, it can't be because I'm smart. It can't be because I work hard. My success isn't because of that. It's because I was lucky, right? Think about that. And the final question I want to ask you is, because you feel like you're not enough and that you were lucky to be in the right place at the right time or whatever, right? Do you feel inside like you're a phony? Do you feel like, wow, one day somebody's going to realize that I'm not all that? I'm not as talented as other people say I am. I'm not as smart. And they're going to discover that I am a fraud or an imposter, hence the imposter syndrome. And because you're afraid, because you feel like you're a phony and you're afraid others will discover it, you have this fear, this nagging feeling inside you. One day somebody's going to find out. And that fear drives you to do things, drives you to drives you to do behaviors, right, that are detrimental to your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. That's what you have. Those are the 3 core characteristics of the imposter syndrome. You don't feel as though you're enough and that everyone else around you is smarter. right? You don't accept your accomplishments and success as the result of your hard work, your talent, your skills. You say it's because you're lucky, because you're in the right place at the right time, because all these other external factors. And the third component is that you feel like a phony, and you feel at some point somebody is going to discover that you are in fact a phony, an imposter, and they're going to tell everybody else that you're not who you pretend you are. You're not who you portray yourself as being. You, in fact, are a fraud or an imposter. Does that any of that sound like you? I really want you to think about how you see yourself and how you feel about your success, because that's what the imposter is. It's how you feel about your success and whether or not you are capable of owning your achievements, your accomplishments, and your success. Are you able to stand up and say, yeah, I did that thing and I deserve the rewards that I get because I work hard? Are you able to do that? Now, listen, for decades, I was not able to do that. I would attribute my success to everybody else around me, or luck. No, I couldn't accept that I worked hard. And so consequently, since I couldn't accept it, that meant I worked harder because I was always trying to prove that I did deserve, but nothing inside me would accept it, right? No matter how hard I worked, I still would not accept it. And I think there are a lot of you who feel the same way. It never occurred to me that my feelings were the result of doubt and negative self talk. I thought, well, I'm not enough because I've done an honest assessment of my skills and my talents. But the truth is, I didn't do an honest assessment. I was in the grips of having the imposter syndrome. And I thought I was alone. I thought I was alone in these feelings of not being enough and not really owning my success. And it's not until I heard about the imposter syndrome and started doing research that I discover that this nagging feeling inside wasn't because, in fact, that I wasn't enough. It wasn't my success wasn't because of what other people did, right? And there was nothing to fear, right? It never occurred to me that that was the case. It never occurred to me that I wasn't alone in those feelings. I thought I was. I thought I was the only one thinking like that. Again, I look at other people and I go, wow, they're so smart, so much smarter, so much more talented. How could they possibly be thinking what I'm thinking about myself? But the truth of the matter is, millions of women feel that way. The truth of the matter is, millions of women and men feel this way. So, um, here are the facts: 70% of all of us will experience the imposter syndrome, that feeling that we're not enough, the feeling that we are somehow lucky. We're lucky. We're not talented, or we're not smart, or we don't work hard. We're lucky. And soon others are going to discover it, right? Now, to prove to you that you're not alone, I'm going to give you some names of people who have talked about having the imposter syndrome. Let's start with former First Lady Michelle Obama. She has wondered more times than a few whether or not she deserves all the attention that she gets. Is she enough? Can she handle it? Now, I think most of us would look at her and go, yeah, she's smart, she's talented, she's more than enough, she's well educated, she deserves the attention. But sometimes inside, she talks about that wasn't the case. She didn't feel as though she deserved the attention. Let's talk about beloved actor Tom Hanks. He one time said, look, I look around and there comes a time when you think, when is everybody going to discover that I'm not all that and come and take it all back? Tom Hanks. He felt like that. Now, what research tells us is, again, 70% of all of us will experience the imposter syndrome sometime in our career. Women, slightly more than men, minorities, slightly more than the general population. Why? Because of the societal messages that are constantly reinforced that you don't belong in this position. What are you doing here? You don't belong here. You're not as smart as whoever around you. You're not as talented as whoever. These jobs were not for you. That's why those psychologists, the two female psychologists in 1978, they did a study of this because women were just entering the workforce in mass, right? And so it was prevalent for them to think, should I be here? Can I handle this? But the feeling, it wasn't like over time the whole feeling that women or minorities shouldn't be in certain positions. It wasn't like those feelings went away. Those feelings just magnified themselves, right? As women and minorities moved up in companies, in businesses, in government, in whatever field it was. So I want you to ask yourself, could you be suffering with the imposter syndrome? You know what the core characteristics are. You don't feel as though you're enough. Everybody else around you is smarter, more, you fill in the blank. Number two, you don't own your success and your accomplishments. You think it's luck. Number three, you feel like a phony inside and you think it's just a matter of time before everybody else discovers that you are indeed a fraud or an imposter. That is the imposter syndrome. So when you hear the term, you may not recognize the term, but you know how you feel. You know you've experienced those three characteristics. Put it in, I want you to comment below what resonated with you. Did you discover anything about yourself? Did you discover, how you feel about your success? I want you to put that in the chat. The imposter syndrome keeps us locked in a state of being that takes a toll on us emotionally and mentally and physically. It's exhausting. And in part 2, I'm going to show you how the imposter syndrome manifests itself in your life and your behaviors. And I'm going to help you identify the toll it's taking on your life. But I want to remind you to hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when any new videos are posted. I appreciate your support, and please leave it in the comments what resonated with you and any questions that you may have. I'll see you in part 2.